Right, well, it's the second time round as I forgot to turn the microphone on so there was no sound for the last 20 minutes or whatever I've been recording. Right, welcome back guys, welcome back to another video. Right, so we're now starting to make all the new bits to go in place of all the rotten stuff we've cut out. I've already started. I remade the cross member. You'll see there's a weld in there between. It's because my metal bender isn't actually wide enough to take this whole thing. So I measured out the correct size piece of steel, cut it out, then I cut it in half, bent the two sections, and then welded them back together. And with a little bit of fettling, that will fit nicely. We're now moving on to this piece. This goes in the back corner of the cab. It's kind of inaccessible once everything's together. It's really just to keep the weather and whatnot out. And then this section here forms part of the door sill, the underside of it, where it attaches to the floor. The floor attaches here and along here. And there's essentially two of these sections that I've had to cut out that are the bottom of the door sill. It's a bit of a weird shape because I've cut it out with everything attached, because everything's spot welded together, and it was easiest in the end to cut it out like this. So we're going to remake this piece first. This is probably the easier bit. It's got a rim around the outside. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do this, but I think all I'm going to do is I will cut this piece separately and then bend it and weld it on. And then there's a tab here that we've got to bend up, but that's nice. That's a straight piece, and that's how that piece attaches to the rest of this. Then we will focus on this piece. We got a bit of a challenge just here because there's nothing left of this piece at all. That completed right through, so there is a considerable gap up to where I've cut back to good metal on the piece that is still attached to the truck. And then after this piece we've got another piece just like this to make. This also has a lip bent on it, but this does have a curve. This is part of the wheel arch just here where the floor attaches as a part of that. So that's going to be a bit more challenging, but we'll get it done. You can see this shows how long this is room rotten. Somebody's attempt at patching a hole, and there is the hole with their gobby welds on it, and then they've literally just smothered a bit of filler over that and painted it. And yeah, I don't know if you remember, but actually just the other side of this section, over here, in a section of the floor that's between this and the seat, it looked like somebody poured loads of body filler in there to cover up a massive bit of rust. And I mean, that whole section again is basically Swiss cheese. You can see how bad this piece has gotten. Even the spot welds have failed, and the rust jacking is pulling everything apart. So yeah, I'm going to bring you in closer. We're going to look at the making the pattern up for this, and yeah, let's get on with it. So this is the pattern. I'll insert some shots of me making it. Unfortunately there's no audio because dipshit here didn't turn the microphone on. So all I've done is measure the distance here. I've left it a little long because I've got some bits to clean up on the truck where this piece attaches. So I've left it a little long. We'll make it a little long and we'll trim it to fit once I've done the clean up on the truck. We were obviously have ignored the slip because we're making this piece separately and then welding it on. And then I simply taken a steel rule and measured the width of this tab and the width across here at the widest point, added the two together, and measured that out. I cut this initially just square. I then took my measurement of the tab, marked it, and then bent this piece up, so that's what the part will look like minus the lip that runs around the outside, and then offered it up to this drill line. Again, I've then cut it long offered it up to the onto the truck, and then cut it to fit, and it fits reasonably well. From memory, the part never fit amazingly well in the first place. This one is also pretty beat to hell. I've had to straighten this piece out up the top in order to get as correct a measurement as I could for the length, to make sure I did actually cut this long enough. But I've had to leave some space to remembering that I've got to weld this lip on, which is going to make the part ever so slightly bigger. So yeah, that's the plan. So I think we shall cut this out of steel now, bend up the lip on here, and go and offer it up to try to see how what we've done. We'll make this lip on here as well. So I'll measure that up and I'll cut that out as well at the same time. I'm not going to need a pattern for that, I'll just measure how long it is and go from there. This little cut out here is to go round another piece of metal that comes down. It doesn't attach, it just goes round it. It's just this last little bit. Obviously I've cut this long, as I've said. This part, if you actually look on the part itself, isn't very big. But yeah. So let me draw this out, mark it up, I'll cut it, and then we'll offer it up. There we go. And we got our lip to bend on this side, and then the strip to make and weld onto that side. And as I said, we'll then trim this to length once she's in the truck. There's our pattern and there's our part. Pretty damn close. And it looks like going to be pretty close to the original, so yeah. So I think, yeah, I'll cut out this edge piece, and then I'll bring you back for the next step, which I haven't decided yet. Okay, so I've marked my line on there. I'll line it up here with the bar here. Just set out to there. I think that should do it nicely. Screw the clamps down. Just make sure we're happy with where we are. Okay, that's it. So we're just gonna pull up on these and bend. That's somewhere about right. And there we go. Okay, so I'm just setting up to weld this strip on. So I've got this clamped to the workmate. Tack, bend, tap, bend, tap, bend, tap, bend. Weld it all out. Probably bring you about halfway through or when I'm finished. We'll see. That's me. That's better. Right, so that's that welded on. It's not the prettiest piece of welding as you can see, but I did get nice good penetration. I mean, it's 1 mil steel, it's kind of hard not to get good penetration. So yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's not the prettiest, but nobody's ever going to freaking see it anyway, because it's bred in the corner where you can't see it. It's going to get painted and this, that and the other. So I'm happy. So now we need this long piece here. This, although you can't really tell to look at it, has a slight curve to it, or should do. So I'm not sure whether I'm gonna make it with this tab included and bend it, or similar to how we did the curved piece on that last piece, leave it out and then weld it in. Don't know. I'll probably offer it up to the piece of floor that attached to this. You see, it does have a slight bend to it. The other challenge obviously is that piece no longer exists. So yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not sure I'm going to do this bit. I'm going to make this pattern, but right, this is a pattern I've just cut out for this piece. Something a bit like that. Section over here where there is nothing is a bit of an estimation. I'll offer it up and see what it looks like. I've had a bit of extra length on here. There's a piece still attached to the chop that we need to clean up. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't put the tab on. It's there. Still not sure what I'm going to do. There is definitely a curve, so I think I might just deal with that the same way I've dealt with the other one. Then I don't know. That one's just a light curve. I don't know. I gotta see what this looks like and then decide where to go from there. So, right, I'm going to draw this out on the steel. Ooh, a bit close. I'm going to draw this out on the steel. Cut it out. And I'll bring it back after. Right. One piece made. You see tab here. I mostly just eyeballed that and it didn't come out too bad. See if I can hammer this out to where I want it. Otherwise, it's too bad. It's be pretty good match to our template. Well, quite happy with that so far. Done that by hand with a hammer and a large cold chisel, which I've used to start the bend off and then used it as a former to get the corner. And I mean, it's not perfect and it certainly needs a little more work, but the first go at that type of thing, I'm pretty happy with that. It didn't come out too bad at all. I did make one slight error here. There's a slight angle change just here, and I overestimated how much metal I need to remove in order to accommodate the bend, but it's not perfect. I'll put the piece I cut out back in. But yeah, otherwise, for first go, I'm pretty happy. So I'm going to work on that a little bit more, and then yeah, just really happy with that. Okay, so we've made. Okay, so we have made this piece. We're now starting to make this piece, which is, it's not identical to this piece, but it is very similar. There's two of these pieces that fit around the wheel arch and have the floor welded to them along this edge here. So along this edge. One of the main differences is on this piece, this tab has a bend in it, just like this piece. Now obviously there's not a lot left of this one. There's a lot more left of the other side. All the arcent, all the rear part of this one's completely missing. That piece we're probably going to be, I'm going to have to measure up what's left on the truck and estimate it. But yeah, so I've already started. That's the top edge. And there's a bit of a rough guide. Obviously we'll make a much cleaner cut than that, and we'll clean up the edge on the truck and that'll fit nicely. This bottom edge we're going to use a template for this one, and this is a bit of a guide to get us somewhere in the right place, and that's here now, just to show the difference in how much I've had to cut off. This fits around about here. You can see there's a bit of a difference in what's had to be cut off. So yeah, so it's going to take me a little bit to get figured out, but I'll probably bring you back when I've got a bit more of this drawn out. Then yeah, we'll cut it out, we'll offer it up and see what we think, and if it looks good, we'll cut it out of steel, and if we get it wrong, we got plenty of steel. So yeah, let's crack on. I'll bring you back once I've drawn this out a bit more. Right, this is what I've come up with. The pattern. That is actually the tab. I'm not entirely sure how to draw it for then to bend it, so I've done it that way, and then once I've bent that tab, if it's all a bit wonky, I'll just straighten out with the grinder. Here's a bit of an estimation, and we're missing the end off of it because this piece of card is not long enough, but I think this is a good starting point. A lot of this is, some of this is measurements off of what's on the truck, you know, this piece here. Some of it is taking measurements off of this old piece, of roughly where things line up, and then as you can see by the curve, that's freehand. So freehand, just yeah, it's a bit of an estimation. Some of it where this measurement here is, I went and looked at the piece of floor I cut out, because that has the piece that this attaches to, so I estimated it on for that. So we'll cut it out, and then we'll offer this up and see what it looks like, yeah, and see how close we are. Hopefully very close, then we can get on and cut it out of steel, and get that all bent up, and then we can move on to the next piece, which I'm not sure what that is. Might be the floor, you know. Cool, right, I'm going to grab some scissors and we'll cut this out. Right, there we go, that's that cut out. So yeah, looks not too bad. Yeah, certainly looks about right on that. So okay, that didn't look too bad. It's not quite right in this section. This piece is just a tad too long here, and the cut is all a bit wonky, which I can just I'll straighten that cut up. That's not a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'll leave this piece a tad long, just in this section here. I'll make this piece a bit longer here, like that, and then this piece we'll probably just trim as it is. We'll cut it as it is, and then we'll also trim that to fit exactly. Otherwise, our hand-drawn curve looks pretty good. That looks like it's going to work out nicely. This obviously fits really quite nicely, and the tabs and everything look like they're all in the right place. So yeah, I think we'll go ahead and cut this out of steel, and then yeah, we'll start bending and whatnot. Right, that's it cut out and the first bend put in. Now we're going to bend this section here. Obviously this is a curve we're bending. So I'm going to do it the same way I did the last one. What I did is I got a cold chisel, this one, set this up in the workmate, basically clamped it, and then used that to hammer out the shape. On there, so yeah, see if I can't film a little bit of it. Yeah, didn't go too badly the first time, so I think it should be great this time, but we'll find out, eh? Right, tidied the end of the chisel up a little bit. Okay, we're slowly getting there. So yeah, a bit of backwards and forwards between this and that, but yeah. Just using it as a bit of a former, like this, and then also yeah, the other way around. Oh. And there is my front. Okay, so we're getting now to a point where this piece is starting to curve as I'm putting this over. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to come in and cut a bunch of slots with a cutting disc. We're not going to, literally just cut. Keep it from bending, and we'll straighten it out once we've done that with the vise, and then we'll carry on bending. And then we'll probably have some bits to cut off and some welding to do, but that should then get us to where we want to be. The way around this would be a stretcher and reducer, but I don't have one, and I'm not going to be getting one, so we'll have to make do without it, because that will allow us to make the shape and stretch and shrink this piece along here to get us where we wanted to be without this piece bending, but that's not going to happen, so we'll have to do it a different way. Okay, I went for some just nice, fairly even slots, so I'll straighten this piece up first, and then we'll go back to forming it to the shape we want. Straighten it out. Oh yeah, and some of these gaps have opened up, so that's definitely done something. What we wanted it to do. Oh shit. I do believe I've just broken it. Okay, it's fairly straight now. So I think is carry on. And this is we were doing, I think, is bending it that way. I'm wondering about coming in this way. Right, we're getting there slowly but surely. Just got to tweak it up here. Okay, so I am going to run a straight line down here, and then cut that off straight, and then we'll go in and weld up the gaps. There we go. Nice and straight. So we'll come in and put a bit of weld in those, and that'll do it nicely. There we go. Not pretty, but it'll do. Okay, so I've just finished trimming up the end of this piece to go in here. That drops in there very nicely. That drops in there very nicely now, because we hadn't actually trimmed out this end, so I'll just mark that up. Cut that off, trim that up. I've also just tidied up along the bottom of here a little bit. What else have I done? I've also been test fitting the rear cross bumper as well, and just to trim that up in a couple of places where it wasn't quite right. And I'm pretty happy with that, so pretty much I think I'm ready to start tacking some of these bits in. The cross member, I'm thinking I'm going to paint, or at least prime the back side of it, because obviously it's quite close to here. It's going to be quite difficult to get paint in there, so yeah, I'm probably going to paint some of that up, or at least just that back side, and then obviously the rest of it should be able to get to reasonably well. Yeah, so yeah, we're pretty much ready to start tacking some of these bits in. Also, now I think about it, I might paint the top side of this, because that's going to be quite difficult to get in there and put a coat of paint on, and then we'll just clean the paint off of the weld surfaces, and like this part of it I'll repaint as well. So I think I'm going to do that first, give that a chance to dry, and then I think we'll get set up, start tacking some of these pieces in, which is exciting. And then once those pieces are tacked and welded in, it'll then be time to make the floor. Okay, so I'm going in with some red oxide primer, this stuff. I bought a decent size, what did I buy? I bought a 6-pack of these, because I knew I was going to need a fair amount of it, and it means I've got some in stock if I ever need it, if I don't use all of it. So we'll give this a go. You can all comment on how bad of a painter I am, for the 3 of you that are going to watch this. Nice thing is today it's quite warm, so this paint is drying nice and quickly, so we'll get a good few layers on. Now let's see this piece, what I want to do, that edge, because we're not going to be able to see that, and then on the inside, I'm supposed to do this, probably do that piece first. Try this without getting massive amounts of paint myself. Gone on quite nicely on that. That's dried already. I think it's about 26 degrees today, and there's a bit of wind, so yeah, that's dried real nice. It's drying pretty quick on this as well. I want to go in for another coat. But, right, that's that piece somewhat tacked in. There's a few tacks there. Where the two pieces meet just up there is a bit of a larger gap than I'd like, but I'll figure that one out when I burn that weld in properly. Otherwise it looks pretty good. So okay, that's mostly welded in now. There's a little bit to do up that end, a little bit to do in that corner, and that's pretty much it. Don't look pretty, but that'll do. I'll grind those welds back because you've got another plate to go on top of that. Believe it or not, you've got another plate to go on here, and then you have the floor sits on there. The floor doesn't run all the way back to here. There's a separate plate that would have been part of this angle piece here. It comes out to here, and then the floor sits on both of those, and believe it or not, all three of those pieces are then spot welded together. So this plate will come over and it'll have holes drilled in it, and then the floor will have holes drilled, and then I'll plug weld to this, and then they do that. But it's in. Tiny up to do, a little more welding down the end, a little bit back in this corner here, and yeah, then that'll do. Right, so that brings us to an end of another video. We've got quite a bit done. We've made all our parts, this one being the last one. Done pretty well, as that's all we had left of the old one. So yeah, also done a bit of painting. And as you saw from the last clip, we've got the cross member pretty much completely welded in now. We've got welds to grind and paint to apply, and then we're going to put a cap on that. We haven't made the cap obviously, but otherwise we've made most of the other parts. So next job I think will be, once we've ground the welds, we'll then start tacking in the other pieces and making that cap. And then once we've got that all put together and some paint applied where it needs to be applied, then it'll be time for the floor. So that should be an interesting one. Might take us a little while, that one. So right, we'll see you on the next one.